All I want is sweet revenge. Yo ho ho, Dom Mafia. Welcome to yet another edition of the Dom Mafia Report. As always, your boy Dan Mitchell coming to you as the Bills are 1-0 right after defeating the Super Bowl champions. And then finally, for the first time, and it seems like a millennium, the Titans are actually coming to Buffalo, right? Past couple of years, it's been in Tennessee. And frankly, let's be honest with ourselves, this team has had our number for the past couple of years. Even our last victory that came down into 2019, that came down to the wire, was legitimately down to 1 point. Last year, of course, we remember when Josh Allen ended up slipping on the goal line, should have won that game. I got completely trolled for releasing my preview video by a bunch of Titans fans. So not only do I want the Bills to get the revenge, I want my revenge, okay? Listen, if we win, I'm legitimately going to be going through all of the comments from last year's video of people trolling me. Be like, what about now, bitch? What about now? But in all honesty, I'm very excited to get into the details of today. As always, this is my preview video for the Buffalo Bills versus the Tennessee Titans. I'm going to be dissecting how I feel the Buffalo Bills defense needs to play the Tennessee Titans offense, and then how the Buffalo Bills offense needs to play the Tennessee Titans defense. Same structure as always. I'm sure you guys already know. Right before we dive into it, though, I do want to go on ahead and shout out today's sponsor, and that just so happens to be Prize Picks. I am talking the best platform on the face of the planet when it comes to anything and everything player prop bets. Now, say for example that you are a better gambler than me, okay, which is most likely the case since I got absolutely during week 1, I couldn't pick a parlay to save my life, then I highly recommend that you download this application. Best thing is that Prize Picks is hooking the Don Mafia up. As soon as when you sign up and you type in the code Don Mafia, they're going to match your initial deposit all the way up to $100, essentially free money. This is what I'm thinking right over here for my player parlay bet that has to do with the Bills and the Titans. I really hope I'm right, but see if you can do any better. Sign up for Prize Picks today. I highly, highly recommend it. So yeah, Dom Mafia, like I said, this is a true test, right? I mean, really when it comes down to it, yes, we are just coming off of a very sweet victory on Thursday Night Football, biggest stage, but now we're going to Monday Night Football. Again, the rest of America is going to be watching. And was our win against the Rams a fluke? Definitely not. But I think what the rest of America wants to see is if we can go on ahead and take care of business of a team that is historically, at least in recent memory, has had our number. And I sincerely believe that we can take care of business. I feel like that we are a better team than the Titans, although that I felt that way for the past 2 years. It just didn't end up turning out that way. The way that I'm looking at this is I want to dissect the Tennessee Titans offense first and what I think our defense needs to go on ahead and do. And what better way to start off than with Ryan Tannehill. Now, when I look at Ryan Tannehill, he is the physical embodiment of destroying you by death of 1,000 paper cuts. He's not that type of quarterback that is going to be throwing the ball downfield. In fact, last year, with every single attempt that he tried to throw the ball downfield, as far as his completion percentage was, and this is over 20 yards, literally at 30% completion. And so his overall attempts really weren't even up there either. I believe it was around like the 20-30% or maybe even less than when he attempts to go on ahead and throw the ball downfield. But this guy is an absolute animal when it comes down into those short and sweet passes. So this is the kind of guy right here. He was sacked a couple of times last week against the New York Giants. He is a very, very sackable quarterback. In fact, out of each and every single one of his snaps his entire career, 7% of those have ended up with him on his ass. So he can get got. He has a very good ability to run. I feel like a lot of people always forget that. We're not going to be seeing him having a bunch of different attempts like a Lamar Jackson or even Josh Allen, but sometimes he likes to surprise us when they're sitting at, 3rd and long, and then he just ends up boosting down the field for a first down in scenarios such as that. Now, he tends to crumble under pressure, just like each and every other single quarterback on the face of the planet. So really what our defensive line needs to do in this perspective is make sure that we get as much organic pressure on this man as humanly possible. Now, I'm not necessarily going to say that we need to blitz him, right? I mean, he's still not that good against the blitz. But since Ryan Tannehill loves those short to medium range passes, us exclusively relying on our defensive line, getting that organic pressure from 4 and dropping as many people back into coverage as possible, that is going to be our best bet. Because when you look at the Tennessee Titans receiving room, their number one receiver is Robert Woods, right? He's getting up there in age. He's coming off of an ACL injury. He only had 1 reception last game. The rookies ended up having a pretty good game. Several of them had like 7 to 8 receptions, 50 to 60 yards from that perspective. So that's really going to fit well, I think, with our young and inexperienced, sort of secondary outside of our safeties. So the key for Ryan Tannehill is legitimately go on ahead and make sure that we get in his face as fast as humanly possible. Because not only does he love those mid-sized passes, he gets rid of the ball very, very fast. A lot of that might have to do with the fact that their offensive line is very young. It is very, very young, and I think that there's a lot of matchup opportunities for the Buffalo Bills defensive line against this inexperienced offensive line. There's a lot of potential matchups for this Buffalo Bills defensive line and the Tennessee Titans very young and inexperienced offensive line. So I fully anticipate our line to absolutely eat and take advantage of those matchups. I'm not sure if you guys remember, but a couple of years ago, 2019, last time the Bills won, we had Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson absolutely dominating Taylor Lewin. It was this big shit-talking catastrophe. It was absolutely beautiful. Both of those gentlemen are on this team right now. Let's hope Shaq Lawson is not a healthy scratch this time, and he can go on ahead and relive the glory days of when the Buffalo Bills could beat the Tennessee Titans. So always something to consider. Now we got to talk about their entire offense, right? The big elephant in the room, which has to do with Derrick Henry. Now, this guy's the best back in the league. He really, really is. But really, one thing I always like throwing out there is that the Buffalo Bills historically have done a very good job at stopping Derrick Henry. For the most part, we keep him to about 50 to 60 yards per game, with a lot of the attempts, per usual, being handed off to Derrick Henry himself. Now, I'm sure a lot of you, especially Tennessee Titans fans, are whipping out your computer right now and be like, oh, Dan, dude, well, Henry ended up putting 130 yards on you last game. Well, that was due to a 70-yard run, basically based off of just a completely botched block. If you were to take that one play away, then Derrick Henry would have only put up about 50 to 60, the average of what Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier have been able to keep him at his entire career against the Buffalo Bills. So as long as we make our tackles, Edmonds, looking at you, linebackers, settle, stuff that hole for me, then I think that we have the answer. We just can't make mistakes. And because Derrick Henry will make us pay for it, there is no doubt in my mind that he will. Now, something that's interesting, like everyone always talks about how he's a monster for yards after contact. I mean, look at him. He's an absolute animal. He's a stud. But very interesting, since 2018, this dude's average yards after contact has been dwindling. Since 2018, his average has dropped a full yard. Like, I believe it's like down to like high 2s, maybe low 3s, where it was at like 4 or 5 back in 2018. So whether or not that this is just his shelf life finally starting to catch up to him, I feel like the best of Derrick Henry, while it may still be here, it's in the twilight of his prime. So it's something that we certainly need to still be concerned about and make our damn tackles and do whatever we can to bring this man down. But that poor running back, man, is probably going to average like 50 to 60 touches per game. And so as far as like the defense and like really stopping their offense, number one, just don't make any mistakes against Derrick Henry. Don't have any botch blocks because he will make you pay for it. You know the Tennessee Titans are going to have him as the focal point of the offense. With Tannehill, Watch out for the fact that he can run. Watch out for the fact that he can run and get pressure organically and drop as many people into coverage as possible, because you know he's not going to make many attempts downfield due to his lack of statistical success. So those two things right then and there, I have a feeling that we will be matching up with them very nicely from the Buffalo Bills defense and the Tennessee Titans offense side of things. Next up, the Buffalo Bills offense versus the Tennessee Titans defense. Now, I'm not going to go here and ride home on their performance last week against the New York Giants, because there's simply not enough of a sample size out there that really makes me want to throw them in a category of where I would rank their defense as of right now. But say that you were to look at the stats, they were giving up about 7 yards per carry. Granted, it was Saquon Barkley who's been healthy for the first time in somewhat seems a century. And then they gave up a total of 400 yards. 400 yards against the New York Giants, who have been the favorites of finishing in the basement of the NFC East this year. So there seems to be some holes. Now, their defensive line, they still have some absolute studs. They still have Simmons. He's going to make plays. They still have Bud Dupree on the edge. He's going to make plays. But we're really going to have to rely on our offensive line to keep Josh Allen clean. And even if they can't, of course, Josh Allen always has that element where he can run the ball. But I really, really want to make sure that he stays as safe as possible for the rest of this season. We need this man's golden arm moving forward. Their secondary on the outside is very young. When Fulton is legitimately the most veteran corner that they have, that's saying something. A lot of people are saying that he hasn't really reached his peak of his career. He's not quite there yet. He's still pretty effective. He got burned a couple of times right against New York. I think that our receiving core is a hell of a lot better than the New York Giants, so that's going to be a very interesting matchup. I'd have to imagine he would be on Stephon Diggs. And then they have McCreary, who is a rookie out of Arkansas. Or Auburn, maybe. I'm not even sure. But he's going to be starting on the opposite side more than likely. So I would probably compare their secondary, frankly, right to the Buffalo Bills secondary. Very young and inexperienced on the outside, but they're held together by their absolute dynamic safety duo. Both of those safeties are ball hawks, are absolute ball hawks. They are going to be dominating the middle of the field. One of them picked off Josh Allen last year during that game, which was Monday Night Football again, surprisingly. But we're just going to have to be definitely mindful when it comes down into the middle of the field and those safeties, always keeping an eye on precisely where they're going to be. From there, linebackers, really not worried about it. But as far as any type of key of what I would see of how the Buffalo Bills can really take advantage of some of those mismatches on their defensive side of the ball, pick on the outside. Pick on the outside. You know that Diggs and Gabe Davis, especially in that short to medium size field range, it's just going to be one-on-one with those two inexperienced corners. I could see both of them absolutely having a great game. I can see whoever we run predominantly out of the slot doing very well. If Sean McDermott wants to maybe trust McKenzie again out of the slot with him trying to cause an interception, or whether or not that it's Jamison Crowder. Their linebackers are pretty weak. I would say really as far as where the Bills' strength is in offense, which is passing the ball, the only thing we got to worry about are the safeties. So really just watch out for them and then attack those mismatches, which is going to be our slot receiver and then also our tight end right up against their linebackers, and then also Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs on the outside. So that's going to be my biggest attack point from there. And they still have a great run-stop defensive line, but when you give 7 yards up right to the New York Giants, we would be stupid not to go on ahead and just feed the rock to Devin Singletary. Feed Devin Singletary until they show us that it was a fluke that they gave up 7 yards per carry last week against the New York Giants. That's really how it's going to play out. I think that the Tennessee Titans defense is going to be overwhelmed just by the amount of firepower that we have on this squad, and then that's just sort of how it's going to be. So as far as final score predictions, I'm going to go off and I'm just going to say, I think Josh Allen picks up exactly where he left off. And I'm pulling another shocker, dude. I'm going 38-13 Buffalo Bills handedly take care of business in Orchard Park. It's going to be a hell of a home opener. And so I think fans are going to go absolutely crazy. And I think that we're going to start the season off 2-0 and get that revenge and get that sort of elephant off of our shoulder of not being able to take care of business against Tennessee. Do me a favor, leave a comment. Let me know what your final score prediction is going to be. It is always a pleasure hearing from you guys. Subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed already. Smash the out of that like button. And before I let you go, better always remember, let's go Buffalo.